Is this thing working? I think it's working. Is the contraption? Yes, we are live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So the V8, it's pretty much a done deal at this point. At least if you're a Mopar fan, you don't really have anything to look forward to. It's already been basically well established at this point that anything with the namesake of Hemi is going away. Well, that is to say, at least for the cars and for half-ton trucks. We haven't really seen anything yet, at least on Dodge's or own website, saying that there's anything coming for those larger trucks. You can only assume that the V8 would still live on in that platform. But as far as a performance variant, ain't gonna happen. And so what is to blame for that? What is the actual root reason? There's quite a few, but the fact of the matter is that the V8 engine, it doesn't have to die. There's no real inherent reason why a manufacturer cannot make an efficient V8, especially given the fact that, and when it comes to light, and this is going to spark a light bulb in your head the minute that I say it, but how is it that every engine that every manufacturer makes has 2 cams per bank of cylinders? So if it's a 4-cylinder, it'll have 2 cams. If it's an 8-cylinder, it's got 4 cams. Every engine that they make is in that configuration. Every V6 is a 4-valve per cylinder V6. Every of boost, right? But why is it that the V8 doesn't follow suit with the Hemi? Why is it that there was never that 5.2 or 5.5 liter Coyote variant? And notice everybody that talks about a V8 will always reference the Coyote V8. Nobody really ever references that 5.7 liter Toyota engine that seemed to go on forever. And really, more to the point, you never hear of the correlation between the two. What does it take to just add 2 more cylinders to a back of a 3.6 liter V6? What does it really take in terms of complexity to just further that architecture in a little bit larger form? I don't understand for the life of me how it is that a manufacturer that only makes 4-valve engines and 2 cam per bank engines can't make a V8. And this is the frustrating part of all of these new inline 6 turbo variants that you see out there. Yeah, they're a lot more powerful than the outgoing V8s. They should be, because the amount of boost that it's taking for that 3 liter to make equivalent horsepower and torque numbers to the 5.7 liter is tantamount to having a 9 liter engine. Look, if you've got 25 pounds of boost, you've got 30, right? I mean, at some point, you're only talking about statistical amounts that don't really amount to much. But in this case, the standard output 3 liter inline 6, which has all of the technology that the Coyote V8 makes with Ford, except it's got turbos, is relying on 25-ish pounds of boost to get to the 420 horsepower mark. 470 pound-feet of torque. Think about what that looks like in terms of atmospheres. That's what, 2.8 atmosphere total, including the Earth's atmosphere that you're breathing. You've got, in essence, 2 times that in boost, almost. So that engine as a 3 liter is almost a 9 liter. Call it an 8 liter, if you will, with the HO variant being a true 9 liter equivalent because it's using 29 pounds of boost to get there. Explain to me how holding that thing together is easier than building a V8. That's easier than building a V8 that would be in that 5.5 to even call it a 6 liter variant. Split the difference between 5.7 and 6.2 or 6.4, make a 6 liter, 5.5, okay, fine, whatever. Direct injection, dual fuel, you've got the basic makings of the freaking Coyote for Mopar. It would make as much or as little power as you like, anywhere between, I don't know, 430 horsepower for a pickup truck and somewhere around 550 or 560 horsepower for the car. Where is this a bad thing? How is it that we are not seeing this? It blows my mind. And especially when you consider the fact that Chevrolet with Corvette can't seem to get anything wrong with Z06. Think of how all of this plays out. And by the way, that's 5.5 liters per cam 4 valve per cylinder. You can see where this is going. Guys, it doesn't make any sense for manufacturers in this stage to not have the V8 that all of us have been begging for, and that we were more or less rumored to have had coming into the conversation circa 2019. Now, I can tell you this, from an efficiency standpoint, this is where things to me get a little bit wild. I see CJ saying I blame the EPA. Here's the weird thing about it. Engines have to pass an efficiency test, if you will. When you are testing an engine for fuel economy, it is at a really, it's a really strange set of laboratory-esque conditions you have to get that engine into to begin the test. A certain temperature range, engine coolant, oil temperature, and all of that all play a major part in this. But it's the steady state test that they rely the most on. But the steady state test is divorced from reality with how people actually drive their vehicles. And in my own experience with fleet vehicles, with 6-cylinder half-ton trucks and V8 half-ton trucks, there is, for practical purposes, no difference if you're on a steady state cruise at 75 miles per hour. There's very little that separates the V6 from the V8. The V6 will get a little bit better fuel economy numbers, though, because there is less frictional loss inside of that engine. But we're talking about a V6 versus a V8 Dodge. What happens if you start comparing V6 and V8 Fords? Well, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because the Coyote gets about 2 to 3 points better at the same speed going down the same highway than the Hemi does. So interesting when you start to break this down. The V8 is practically indistinguishable from the V6 from just a driving down the road, steady state highway cruise point of view. Now you want to get into the city. Well, on city driving, it's funny when people start saying something city. I've got interesting fun fact. I've got window stickers up here above my head. And it's funny how there's always a city mileage. I'll give you an idea. The 2022 Ram 1500, 18 city, 23 highway. Ram 1500 Tradesman, 15 city, 22 highway. That should be reversed. This is how not in reality things are. My Tradesman continuously nails down great fuel economy numbers, where Stormy, my 2022 Ram, didn't. Now, city driving has everything to do with your foot. What kind of city are we talking about? Are we talking about small town USA type of city driving? Or are we talking about the middle of New York City or Chicago type of city driving? There's no real world results that you can hang your hat on. Now I'm over here looking again, Challenger SRT 392. This is a 392, 15 city, 25 highway. The whole point of this is the fact that you keep hearing and seeing about this demise, the consistent dropping of V8s for what seems like more of a political reason. There haven't been any real world, there's nothing, there's no arrow pointing to a real world result that would give you any indication that the V6 EcoBoost engines or the inline six Hurricane engines will provide any better fuel economy overall. I've yet to see that. My experience with the EcoBoost engines, by the way, is that they get shitty gas mileage. And again, it's because of how you drive the thing. To get the thing to make any power, it's got to be in boost. This is 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder. To make any power, it's got to be in boost. And when it's in boost, to make 200 or 300 horsepower of partial throttle power, you're going to need the extra manifold pressure. That means you're in a richer state of fueling than you would be for an atmospherically fed V8, making the same amount of power, with the only difference being that the boosted engine would be making more torque. Okay, so that's really what it comes down to, is its power numbers. How does it feel underfoot? You can't keep relying on fuel economy numbers, which are, again, it's a fantasy. Whatever that number is, it has nothing to do with reality. So now it's really more about what does it feel like to just drive the thing. And if you have the right sized turbos and you have the right tuning, the EcoBoost 3.5 liter is very torquey, very strong underfoot at low RPM numbers. It just tends to fall over on its face. The 2.7, basically the same thing. But they do make the numbers and they do feel peppy to drive. But make no mistake, there is no difference in fuel economy, at least not with my experience. And that's not just with the turbo variants of V6s. That also has to do with my experience with inline sixes with Ford. Don't forget the 4.9. Extremely good engine. That's an inline six. Why don't we have something more along those lines, but a twin cam version? That would be pretty disgustingly awesome. Oh, wait, they did. It's in Australia. It's the Barra. So that's a 4-liter. So for a lot of the folks that are out there that are touting the inline six as being this world beater, V8 beater, and I'm one of them, by the way. And what I wanted to do for this video also is like point counterpoint. I also need to be able to prove to you guys that I can carry the conversation in the other direction. I know that in many cases I've been almost shilling, it seems like, for Dodge with Hurricane 6. Have you driven anything with a Hurricane 6? You know nothing about what you speak unless you have it. But the reality is, guys, where I put my money and where I invested a significant chunk of change was in the V8, was in the V8 Ford, because I knew that coming into this conversation, there's going to be too many areas for error when it comes to making that kind of power with that kind of boost, talking specifically about what it's going to take to make power with a 3-liter engine, the type of power that they're talking about making. But it's such a big boost number that in and of itself scared the living hell out of me. So what would I rather see? I would rather see engines more like the Coyote out there. Have the Coyote be the smallest of the group. Mopar needs to come out with their own 5.5 or 5.9 or whatever they want to land, somewhere in the middle of 5.7 and 6.4, something that will carry the moniker moving forward for Dodge, for the V8. Because without the V8, I'm sorry, but Dodge loses all of its marketing panache. It does not have the chops on an inline six platform to be able to come to the market and start capturing incremental business over the Mustang when your only selling point is that it's all-wheel drive and you can put that power to the ground. That's for the HO version, by the way, which is rumored now to cost somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 whole ass dollars. So coming into this conversation, the only engine that you can really talk about is the standard output at, call it 420, 440 horsepower, whatever it's going to be in the car, and 470 pound-feet of torque, just like what you'll see in the pickup trucks. Okay, fine. Yes, that's more horsepower, but about the same. Okay, wait a minute. So, but it doesn't come with a manual transmission. We don't know what the weight of this vehicle is going to be. And to everyone that is saying that, well, this is going to be their resurgence and Cold War kid stuff and everything else, look, that is a lot of convenient argument. The reality is that Dodge has been building their brand off the back of the four-letter word of Hemi now since 2008. Like, nobody knows what anything is anymore outside of Hemi when it comes to Dodge. Gone are the SRT 4 days. Gone are really any of the SRT, anything that's not the 6.4, the 6.2 liter engine family. So what is there to hearken back to? We are too far, in my opinion. I've been talking about how great it would be if Dodge would bring back a namesake to really anchor that Hurricane 6.2. The Eagle Talon is the one that always comes to mind, the new Dodge Talon. That would be sick as fuck if they brought back something along those lines with that background, with that street racing cred that car had back in the day. If you don't know, just look it up. The thing was disturbing on the street. And to be honest with you, unless you had like a deep 11-second car stoplight to stoplight, and that's on slicks or drag ET Street R's, well, a bit of ET Streets back then, it wouldn't have been ours. You weren't going to touch one. These were cars that would legit, with tuning and mods, as a 5-speed, would run low 11s and high 10s on the street. Okay. So, a drag strip. Yeah, it's adorable. We were all getting kicked off at drag strips because we were going too fast for the NHRA. So again, when you have, how do I put this? When you have no real way to market a vehicle, we've already seen how poorly and how botched the Hornet was with its marketing. This is an area with the Hurricane 6, I believe, in my opinion, that the V8 needs to stay and have it as another power plant option for the Charger. That name is enough to, it's like throwing cats on a chalkboard for me. These legacy names need to go, at least as far as that one goes. But it needs to remain, if for no other reason than to at least be able to carry the nameplate, not carry this 6-pack. Like, oh, it's the 6-pack. Oh, don't even get me started. That I get why, and it makes sense, but there's a certain level of cringe. Like, you can't, there was never a Charger 6-pack. Like, oh, God, it's like a random name generator, except instead of being a random name, it's names from the 60s cars we used to make. And it's put it into, a cowboy hat, shake this thing all up and pull something out. The Dodge Boys, that's where the cowboy hat thing comes from. Oh, we're going to call it there's Charger again. And it's the 6. Oh, we're going to call it anyway. You get where I'm going. It's just the 6-pack thing is just to piss me off. It's like, it doesn't bother me until I think about it from a Dodge guy point of view, and then it really does get underneath my skin. So there is that. Anyway, V8 good, 6-cylinder questionable. The gas mileage thing is a farce, and I like vroom vroom sounds out of V8s. Anyway, let me get back to you guys real quick, check in with y'all. We're doing a bit of a short show tonight, so I'm going to have to make it quick. And that's another thing, changing formats a little bit. I'm probably going to pull some timing out of the live shows. Let me know what you think in the comments if you like it. We're going to start to limit the live shows to about half an hour, give or take. Hemi Challenger is in with the flex. Rowboat is in. Lime is good. Gary is in. What's up, Gary? David Barlow with the thumbs up. I like it. Rowboat. A little glitchy this evening. I don't doubt it. Having some connectivity issues of late. Hemi's saying ebb and flow. I was around in the 70s and watched the anemic 80s and glad I was able to see it return. May not live to see it return. True that. CJ saying, I blame the EPA as well as the evil Democrats for killing the legendary V8s. Vote your conscience. Vote, vote, vote. Guys, get out there and vote. For everything. I don't care if it's for dog catcher. I don't care if it's for the librarian. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. There is no excuse, and I will not accept any excuse for anybody to not be voting. And that's for everything. No, there is no such thing as a race that is not important enough for you to be involved in if your involvement is none other than just voting in it. You would be shocked how deep a city council vote can go. You would be shocked as far as school board, things like that. Guys, be a part of the process. Like Ironsides would tell you, man, voting is violence. Voting is power. It's the only way you can exercise your right and your voice is through voting. So get out there and vote. Whatever your conscience tells you to vote, do that. Eric is in. Good evening, everyone and friends. Hey, hello, Eric. Eric is checking in. Brent, good to see you, my man. Eric, checking in with Hemi Head. Brent saying that HO6 gets worse miles per gallon than the 5.7. Absolutely, it does. All of them do. CJ, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Vincent, do you think the RT Challenger is kind of boring, not enough power? I've never said that about the RT once. In fact, I'm on record as saying that a properly set up RT is hell to deal with on the street. Yeah, no, not boring at all. I like a mid 13-second car. A mid to low 13-second car on the street is really good, and there are plenty of 12-second RTs running around out there. So no, it's a good car. Vincent's asking, did I have any major problems with the Hellcat? Anything pricey? Look, man, how many little bits does it take to make a lot? There was a bunch of little electrical issues that added up to just being just a pain in the ass on that car. But anything pricey? Yeah, the fuel pump was about $900, and that's with me doing all the work on that. Fuel pump driver went out. There's also unrelated issues, by the way. The fuel pressure sensor was not covered under warranty, which was bullshit. That was about $400. A wheel hub, which was about $100, various sensors that ended up being about $300. So, nothing major, I suppose, but, things that could have been major and things that could have led to major problems if I wasn't so diligent in, data logging. And that's not to say that I'm doing anything that any of the rest of the racers weren't doing. So, Vince actually, did my Hellcat buyer notice the dent on the fender? I pointed it out to him. Yep, absolutely. Brent, thank you very much. The HO is a joke. You also need to run 91 in it. Real talk on that. So this is another thing that I don't know why I'm doing Hercules over here. This is something that I don't understand. This is actually a bit of a piss me off with manufacturers in general that are making these V6, now inline 6 turbo variants. How the hell is it that my Coyote, which by the way benefits quite a bit with E85 in the stock tune, how is it that engine can have E85 technology, but the boosted engines, the ones that need them the most, and arguably the reason why E85 was even like global green lit, why is it that they don't have the technology? That is stupid on a level that I don't even know that I have a vocabulary that will describe. It makes no sense to me how you can have this naturally aspirated V8, which it does pick up with E85. And it picks, I mean, it'll pick up a couple of tenths, 0 to 60. So as long as you have enough E85 in the tank for it to know that it's got the right amount in there, which is to say you have to reach an inferred number. It needs to know that it's got at least 70% ethanol, or it won't really make that much of a change. But I digress. Details, right? The reality is, how is it that those engines don't have that technology? Blows my mind, especially when you consider the fact that these engines have a higher specific output than the Demon 170 has. And it has to have corn to cover the number. I don't get it. I'm saying, oh my God, the Hornet, they screwed that all up. You got to remind people, by the way, that the Hornet exists. Eric saying what is really hurting the Chrysler Corporation now is they've had a V8 option again to survive, hands down. I mean, it can't always only be about numbers, and Ford gets it. All right. I'm not trying to get over here and bust out the chapstick for the blue oval, but I got to tell you, when it comes to getting it, Ford gets it. You can tell that Ford is run by a legacy of enthusiasts. Look how many iterations the Coyote has gone through. We're on the 4th generation Coyote now. That's huge. My engine in my truck makes more power than the original Coyote Mustang engine did. Think about that for a minute. I mean, and the Mustang is making more horsepower than the outgoing 6.4 liter in Scat Packs. It's gone from 400 to 485 horsepower. What has the 6.4 done? It's had 2 calibration changes. That's basically it, and nothing internally. So anyway, Emmy's saying 446 marketing. Yeah, 100%. Pontiac had the tri-power. Yeah, they did. Awesome engines, by the way. And again, thank you, Brent. I appreciate it, bud. I don't know why it's not popping up on the thing, but let's see. Vincent's asking, do you think the V8 sounds better than the V10? Why does the V10 not sound as aggressive as the V8? It has 2 extra cylinders. The reason why is the V10 has a split firing order. It's basically like having a 6-cylinder and a 4-cylinder running concurrently. But it also doesn't rev really high either. So if that engine would rev to 7,500 RPM, it'd be a completely different engine. Brent, thank you again. Brent, I liking the 45-minute to an hour shows. Love taking cars breaks up the work kids. Oh, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it works out better, I think, for a lot of folks, because the 2-hour shows are just really tough to stomach. I know that I got some machinist guys out there, the truck driver guys, a lot of the plant guys that like the show. I know some of them like the longer shows, and we may still carry a longer show on the weekends, but during the week, the weekday shows at about 30 minutes to 45 minutes seem to be kind of the sweet spot for most guys. I know some guys like to have me on in the background when they're on like a walk, a jog or something like that too. So, and I mean, I'll listen to other YouTubers when I'm mowing the yard or something like that. So I think I've been part of some folks' yard mowing also. Let's see. Lime, yeah, the 66 Pontiac GTO. It's a good engine. Love me some GTOs. Brent's saying, I like the hour shows. Yeah. And saying your vote matters. Every vote matters. Every vote matters. And the more you are out in voting, at first you won't really have a lot of like a lot of an understanding maybe of what you're really voting for, but you know what you want the end result to be and who's going to be the end result provider usually. But once you get a little bit more into it, you get a little bit more involved with some of these folks, and you find out a little bit more, and you learn more about how the process works. But the main thing, it doesn't matter. You don't have to get that deep into it. I try not to. On a local level, my thing is just get out there and vote. It does not matter what it's for. Be a part of the process. CJ's got a good point. Also, if the EcoBoost is so good, then why did Ford make the 6.8 and 7.3 Godzilla V8s as base gas engines and not the 3.5 and the EcoBoost V6? It's because here's the reason why. When you're talking the larger displacement engines, and by the way, I had to eat crow on the 7.3 Godzilla because that thing is the head flow is crazy. It's just a really good big ass engine. The reason why is because the big gas engines, they're industrial engines. They've got to be able to provide an amount of power at wide open throttle upgrades for extended periods of time. I wouldn't try to ask that of any of the gas turbo sixes, but that's a fantastic point. And again, another reason why so many people prefer a V8 over a 6. Eric saying in the Mopar community now, they did a survey and said 90% negative feedback on the new Dodge Charger cars because of lack of a V8 engine option. So that's not too good for them. Good point. Very well placed. Yes. And I agree with you, Eric. I mean, look, for me, again, there's no, okay. So let's talk about what Kaniska said about that. When he was asked, is there a V8? He's flat out, nope, not even going to do it. Asking, okay, well, what's the Mustang rated at? What's that Dark Horse rated at? Okay, we got more power than that in our car, right? Talking about the Charger with the whatever. And from a dollar per dollar standpoint, let's say that they're both the same price. Here's the problem. You can't, again, you're not living in a vacuum. Car guys are car guys. Like a true enthusiast takes in all aspects, whether you're into motorcycles, boats, or cars, or anything. There are nuances that one person will pick up on that will be foreign territory for somebody else that could be a part of the same lifestyle. This happens a lot with everything. I'll use motorcycles as an example. I'm a huge fan of my Triumph Bonneville T120. For some people, that bike would be completely boring, but there's certain little things about that bike that really get me excited. I enjoy that type of thing. Part of that is the sound of it. It's not the fastest. It's not supposed to be the fastest. There's a feeling that you get when you're driving a V8. There's a power delivery that you get out of a V8 that you can't get out of a Turbo 6. That's why I bought my F-150. That's why I'm running the truck that I'm running now, is specifically because it's not a Turbo 6. Because I didn't like how the Turbo 6 put power down. So when you, again, and plus, with all the technology and with everything that you can potentially say could go wrong with the V8, the one thing you don't have to worry about are all of the components that you have to bolt to the smaller engine to make it make the same kind of power as the V8. So with saying all of that, you can just keep that same mindset going. There's not enough goodwill in the bank at this stage of the game for Dodge to dismember their own marketing strategy by removing the V8 from the lineup completely from a platform that is only purchased by enthusiasts, seemingly. You're taking away the one thing that you could possibly use to market the vehicle. You cannot keep, in this case, and I understand the internet will disagree on this point, but you cannot take the V of the Mopar ethos when it comes to building a hot rod, building a muscle car, building a pony car, whatever the case may be. The inline six, the turbo stuff, it has its place. Just like the Eagle Talon had its place back in the day. Or just like any of the DSM cars, or just like any of the JDM cars back then. The DSM would be Diamond Star Motors, by the way. That's the Conquest / Starion, or the 3000 GT versus Stealth. That's all DSM. And JDM would be anything like a 300Z or Supra, Japanese domestic market. So what you're seeing here is like a resurgence of the 80s, but with the same mistakes being made that were made back then. It won't, and it might not, I should say, matter that the Dodge will be faster in a straight line. There's a lot of folks that, and you'd be forgiven if you didn't pick up on the fact that there's other things you can do with cars than just go in a straight line. But there are facets to this hobby, this lifestyle, whatever, that have nothing to do with power and have everything to do with the driving experience. And that's where the V8 wins the argument every single time. For most folks that get into muscle cars, if it doesn't have a V8, then it's an import of some kind. There's not anything wrong with that. And really, I've got it in the defense of the inline six or the V6. When they're done right, and when they come on boost and it's just this overwhelming rush, that's awesome stuff too, in its own right. But I might like the taste of lobster, but if I'm in the mood for steak, feeding me a lobster is not going to put me in just as good of a mood. They can both be good. But if you're not into something, you're just not into it. And again, if that is the only argument, by the way, if performance numbers are the only argument that you will allow into this conversation, why are we not only talking about EVs? It seemed like that would be the logical place to begin and end the argument. In talking about EVs in that respect, why are we not talking about EVs making 800, 900, 1,000 horsepower just sitting on the side of the road for you to go by and do a share thing with these things? Because you would think it would be that easy. Why are we not doing that? See, for me, it almost feels like this turbo 6-cylinder thing is some kind of a weird, like, stopgap. Where, okay, we're giving you an internal combustion engine, but it's not really the one that you want. It's not one that we could have developed or built off the back of technology and architecture that we already kind of sort of have. This is going to be what you'll buy if you don't buy the EV, which is going to be faster than anything that we've ever made. So Demon 170, you will become irrelevant the second that whatever Maserati equivalent Gran Turismo 800 volt watt gigawatt, whatever it is, once that thing hits the street. That's just real talk, and that's facts. So again, this is a situation where the numbers don't tell the whole story. And I'm sorry, but with the modern technology that can be put into V8s to make them more efficient, to make them be able to deliver the type of efficiency and the type of power that you need, It's already there. And to me, it just feels lazy to rely on boosted six cylinders. But it is even worse when you consider the fact that those boosted six cylinders from Dodge rely on such an obnoxious amount of boost to make power numbers that, quite honestly, other manufacturers are making at almost just only at half the numbers. So that to me is a bit of a red flag and a bell being run at the same time. Eric's hanging out with Skids and CJ. Skids, did I miss something from you? Oh, there he is. What's shaking me? I got the flex and the cadence, the ball guy with the shades. I like it. Beefy's saying the new car coming all-wheel drive makes me wonder about all-wheel drive builds with existing Mopar. How much power do you think the all-wheel drive 5.7 Pursuit can handle? I think that it's been tested in real-world application, somewhere around the 600 range, but don't quote me on that. But that's on street tires, not on sticky rubber. People say, not sure if anyone's done it since for the most, half the appeal of the car is lighting tires up. Yeah. Eric's hanging out with Brent. Skid's hanging out with Eric. And again, Brent, thank you, buddy. Vincent's asking, what's faster, the Scat Pack or new Mustang GT? The new Mustang GT. Brent's saying this thing should not be named the Charger. No, it should not. Skid saying the new Dark Horse for sure, a new GT, more than likely faster than the Scat Pack. I'll put it to you like this. Let's go transmission for transmission and scenario for scenario. On the street, the Mustang automatic is faster and the manual is faster. On the drag strip, if you put a drag pack wheel and tire setup, the Scat Pack, you'll have to drive around the Scat Pack still on the top end of the track. And the Mustang it'll be able to cover that car by about 1/10 of a second, but it'll be reeling it in and passing it to the tune of being quicker by 1/10 of a second, but a significantly better mile per hour. And of course, the manual transmission is not even going to be close between the two. So that's not taking anything away from the Scatty with the 6-speeds. They're great cars to drive. They're big, muscly, broody things to drive. So they're nice, but it's not a fair comparison to compare those two cars in that way either. I know that they're going to get compared, but I don't like the comparison. See, Eric's hanging out with some of the crowd. Vincent's asking, have you ever driven a semi-truck or construction or farm equipment like tractors? I have construction equipment and farm equipment. And yes, tractors, absolutely have never driven a semi truck and am dying to get my hands on that experience. I have a neighbor who him and his son have a trucking company, and I am dying to just go over there one day and ring his doorbell and say, dude, can you teach me how to drive one of these things? Skid saying, I've already seen a Dark Horse Mustang at 60 grand. So the new HO Charger 6-pack, better damn will be 60 to 70. I tell you what, there's a Mustang at my local Ford dealership that's in the showroom that is it's a maxed out optioned GT performance pack. It's the real pretty blue color with the white Recaros even. I mean, it's a sick looking car. But it is still a GT and it's 64. But it's all the way, that car is all the way alive. I don't know if there's anything else you could put on that car. Ken's asked, have I ridden a Boss Haas V8 motorcycle? Unfortunately, no, I haven't. Would like to, though. Another bike that I would like to ride is the supercharged Rocket 3, which would be a very similar experience. Brent's asking, Brent's saying to Eric, they should have let the name go and they did the last call cars. I agree with that 100%. Sovereign is in. Oh, man. I got some of you guys hanging out. CJ saying the two young dudes from Build It Yourself made a 6.8 liter dual overhead cam 40 valve Triton V10. That is crazy. Using 4 sets of 4 valve Cobra heads. Nice. That's an engine that Ford really should have made. That's, by the way, a very durable ass engine. I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I've got some. Brent saying we'll see how they hold up running that much boost. Yeah, I don't know. There are some folks that have had. So I talked to a guy that was a service writer at a Dodge dealership that moved over to Ford, and he was saying that it's not like every one of the Hurricane engines were broken or blown up or something like that, but there was never a time they didn't have a Grand Wagoneer in the shop. And it's one of those types of cars where if you were to look at it from the point of view of, if you were to look at it from the point of view of how many Wagoneers have you sold versus how many are in the shop, the number was kind of up there a little bit. Let's see. Brent saying, I hope they won't be like the 82 to 85 Buick Grand National. Good car. Good car. And it would have been sick to death if they would have carried that car along. But still a neat car. CJ saying, I have a 2011 Ford F-150 with a 5-liter Coyote V8 with 161,000 miles on it, still going strong. It is a beast, and it sounds like a beast with a Borla attack. So all of our fleet vehicles used to be Ford F-150 extended cabs with Coyotes. And we still, the last holdout, I want to say, is a shoot, that thing might be a 2013. It's got over 300,000 miles. It might be on almost 400,000 miles. That guy won't let the truck go. He's got every option to let it go, and he won't let it go. I think I'll just give that thing to him at this stage of the game. Anyway, one of the guys that I work with just recently, I say recently, in the last couple of years, got his Dodge. He was the second or third to the last to give up his 2011 or 2013 F-150, the Coyote truck that he had. I nearly bought that truck, and that truck had 300,000 miles on it when he let it go, and it ran like a brand new truck. CJ saying he takes the V8 over the EcoBoost. Yep, I certainly did. But guys, with that, we are going to be doing the shorter format tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out. Brent, thanks for all the support, brother. I appreciate it. Listen, guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. Love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.